The complete work of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 5, Section 7. Writings. Impure water and impure food are the cause of all maladies. In America nowadays, it has become a craze to purify the drinking water. The filter has had its day and is now discredited because it only strains the water through, while all the finer germs of diseases such as cholera, plague, remains intact in it. Moreover, the filter itself gradually becomes the hotbed of these germs. When the filter was first introduced in Calcutta for 5 years, it is said that there was no outbreak of cholera. Since then, it has become as bad as ever, for the reason that the huge filter itself has now come to be the vehicle of cholera germs of all kinds. The simple method that we have of placing three earthen jars, one over another, on the third-footed bamboo frame is the best. But every second or third day, the sand and the charcoal should be changed or used again after heating them. The method of straining water through the cloth contained a lump of alum in it that we find in the villages along the bank of Ganga in the vicinity of Calcutta is the best of all. The particles of alum, taking with them all earth and impurities and the disease germs, gradually settle at the bottom of the deep jar as sediment. The simple system bring into disrupt pipeline and exhale all your foreign filters. Moreover, if the water is boiled, it becomes perfectly safe. Boil the water when the impurities are settled down by the alum and then drink it and throw away filters and such other things into the ditch. Now in America, the drinking water is first turned into vapor by means of huge machines. Then the vapor is cooled down into water again, and through another machine, pure air is pressed into it to substitute that air which goes out during the process of vaporization. This water is very pure and is used in every home. In our country, he who has some means feeds his children with all sort of sweets and give right things, because perchance it is shame. Just think what the people will say to let them have only rice and chapatis. What can you expect children feed like that to be but disproportionate in figure, lazy, worthless, idiot, with no bone, with no backbone of their own. The English people, who are so strong a race, who work so hard day and night, and whose native place is a cold country, even they hold in dread the very name of sweetmeats and food fried in butter. And we who live in the zone of fire, as it were, who do not like to move from place to another, what do we eat? Lochis, kachoris, sweet, and other things, all fried in ghee or oil. Formerly, reminders, formerly, our village reminders in Bengal would think nothing of walking 20 or 30 miles and would eat twice 20 koi fish, bones and all. And they lived to the 100 years. Now their son and grandsons, some come to Calcutta and put on airs, wear spectacles, eat the sweets from the bazaar, hire a carriage to go from one street to another, and then complain of diabetes, and their life is cut short. This is the result of their being civilized, Calcuttaized, Calcuttaized people. And doctors and vaidyas hastened their ruin too. They are all knowing. They think they can cure anything with medicine. If there is little flatulence, immediately some medicine is prescribed. Alas, it never enters into the head of these Vaidyas to advise them to keep away from the medicine and go and have a good walk of 4 to 5 miles so. I am seeing many countries and many ways and preparations of food, but none of them approaches the admirable cooking of our various dishes of Bengal. And it is not too much to say that one would like to take rebirth for the sake of again enjoying this their excellence. It is it is a great pity that one does not appreciate the value of teeth when one has them. Why should we imitate the Western as regard food, and how many can afford to do so? The food which is suitable in our country is a pure Bengali food, cheap, wholesome and nourishing. Let that of the people of Eastern Bengal. Imitate their food as much as you can. The more you learn westwards to copy the modes of the food, the worse you are and the more uncivilized you become. You and Calcutta's civilized forsooth, carried away by the charm of the destructive net, which is of your own creation, the bazaar's sweets. Bankura has consigned its popped rice to the river Damodar. Its kalia dal, its kalia dal has been cast into the ditch, and Dhaka and Vikrampur have thrown to the dogs their old dishes, or in the other words, they have become civilized. You have gone to wreck and ruin, and are leading others in the same path. You townspeople, and you pride yourself on your being civilized. And these provincial people are so foolish that they will eat all the refuge of Calcutta and suffer from dyspepsia and dysentery, but will not admit that it is not suiting them, and will define themselves by saying that the air of Calcutta is damp and saline. They must by all means be townspeople in every respect. So far, in brief, about the merit of food and other customs. Now I shall say something in the matter of what the Westerners generally eat. And now, by degrees, it has changed. The food of the poor in all countries is some species of corn, herbs, vegetables, fish, and meat fall within the category of luxuries and are used in the shape of chutney. The crop which grow in abundance and is the chief product of the country is the staple food of its poorer classes. As in Bengal, Orissa, Madras and Malabar coast, the prime food is rice, pulses, vegetable, and sometimes fish and meat are used for chutney only. The food of the well-to-do class is the food of the well-to-do class in other parts of India is chapatis of wheat and rice of the people in general, mainly chapatis of bajra, marhu, janar, jingora, and other corns. All over India, herbs, vegetables, pulses, fish, and meat are used only to make tasteful the roti or the rice, as the case may be, and hence they are called in Sanskrit Vyanjan. So hence they are called in Sanskrit Vyanjan. That is that which seasons food. In the Punjabi, Rajputana and the Deccan, though the rich people and the princess take many kinds of meat every day, yet with them even the principal food is roti and rice. He who takes daily 1 pound of meat surely takes 2 pounds of chapatis along with it. Similarly, in the West, the chief food of the people in the poor countries and especially of the poor class in the rich parts are bread and potatoes. Meat is rarely taken, and if taken, is considered as a chutney. In Spain, Portugal, Italy, and other compara- comparatively comparatively warm countries, grapes grow profusely, and the wine made of grapes is very cheap. These wine are not intoxicating. Unless one drinks a great quantity, one will not get intoxicated, and are very nutritious. The poor of those countries therefore use grape juice as a nourishment instead of fish and meat. But in the northern part of Europe, such as Russia, Sweden, and Norway, bread made of rye, potato, and a little dry fish form the food of the poor classes. The food of the wealthy classes of Europe and of all the classes of America is quietly different. That is to say, their chief food is fish and meat. Bread, rice, and other things are taken as chutney. In America, bread is taken very little. When fish is served, it is served by itself, or when meat is served, it is served by itself and is often taken without bread or rice. Therefore, the plate has to be changed frequently. If there are 10 sort of foods, the plate has to be changed as many times. If we were to take our food in this way, we should have to serve like this. Suppose the sukta, that is bitter chutney, is first brought, and changing that plate. Dal is served on another, and in the same way soup arrives, and again the little rice by itself, or a few lochis, and so on. One benefit of this way of serving is that a little only of many varieties is taken, and it saves one from eating too much of anything. The French take coffee and one or two slices of bread and butter in the morning, fish and meat, etc. In a modern way about midday, and the principal meal comes at night. With the Italian and Spaniards, the custom is the same as that of the French. The German eat a good meal 5 or 6 times a day, with more or less meat every time. The English 3 times, the breakfast being rather small but tea or coffee between, and the Americans also 3 times, but the meal is rather large every time with plenty of meat. In all these countries, the principal meal is, however, dinner. The rich have French cooks and have food cooked after the French fashion. To begin with, a little salted fish or roe or some sort of chutney or vegetable. This is by way of simultaneous or stimulating the appetite. Soup follows, then according to the present day fashion, fruit. Next comes fish, then the meat curry, and after which a joint of roast meat and with it some vegetables, and afterward game birds and or venison, etc. Then sweets, and finally delicacies like ice creams. At the table of the rich, the wine is changed every time the dish changes, and hock, clerk, and iced champagne are served with different courses. The spoon and knife and fork are also changed each time with the plate. After dinner, coffee without milk and liquors in very tiny glasses are brought in, and smoking comes last. The greater the variety of wine served with the various dishes, the greater will be the host to be regarded as a rich and wealthy man of fashion. As much money is spent over there in giving the dinner as would ruin the modernly rich man of our country. Sitting cross legged on the wooden seat on the ground with a similar one to lean his back against the area used to take his food on a single metal plate, placed on slightly raised wooden stool. The same custom is still in vogue in Punjab, Rajputana, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. The people of Bengal and Orissa, Telangana and Malabar etc. do not use wooden stools to put the plate on, but take their food on the plate or a plantain leaf placed on the ground. Even the Maharajas of Mysore does the same. The Musalmans sit on a large white sheet when taking their food. The Burmese and Japanese place their plates on the ground and sit supporting themselves on their knees and feet only, and not flat on their haunches like the Indians. The Chinaman sits on chair with their dishes placed on the table and use spoon and wooden chopsticks in taking their food. In the olden times, the Roman and Greeks had a table before them and reclining on the couch used to eat their food with their fingers. Europeans also, sitting on chair, used to take their foods with their fingers from the table. Now they have spoons and forks. The Chinese mode of eating is really an exercise required skill, as our pen vendors make by dexterity of hand. Two separate pieces of thin iron sheets work like scissors in the trimming of the pen leaves. So the Chinese manipulated two sticks between two fingers and the palm of the right hand in such a way as to make them act like tongue to carry the vegetable up to their mouth. Again, putting the two together and holding a bowl of rice near the mouth, they push the rice in with the help of those sticks, formed like little shovel. The primitive ancestors of every nation used to eat, it is said. The primitive ancestor of every nation used to eat, it is said, whatever they could get. When they killed a big animal, they would make it last for the month and would not reject it even after it is got rotten. Then gradually they became civilized and learned cultivation. Formerly, they could not get their food every day by hunting and would, like the wild animals, gorge themselves one day and then starve 4 or 5 days in the week. Later, they escaped that, for they could get their food every day by cultivating, but it remained a standing custom to take with food something like rotten meat or other things of the old days. Primitively, rotten meat was an indispensable article of food. Now that or something else in its place became like a sauce, a favorite relish. The Eskimos live in this snowy region where no kind of corn can be produced. Their daily food is fish and flesh. Once in a way, when they lose their appetite, they take just a piece of rotten flesh to recover their lost appetite. Even now, Europeans do not immediately cook like wild birds, game, and venison while fresh, but they keep them hanging till they still or they begin to smell a little. In Calcutta, the rotten meat of a deer is sold out as soon as brought to the market, and people prefer some fish when slightly rotten. In some part of Europe, the cheese, which smells a little, is regarded as very tasty. Even the vegetarians like to have a little onion and garlic. The southern Indian Brahmin must have been in his cooking, but the Hindu Shastras prohibits that too, making it a sin to take onion, garlic, domestic fowl, and pork to one caste. They that would take them would lose their caste. So the Orthodox Hindus gave up onion and garlic and substituted in their places asafoetida, a thing which is more shrinkingly offensive in smell than either of the two. The Orthodox Brahmin of Himalaya similarly took to a kind of dry grass smelling just like garlic. And what harm in that? The scriptures do not say anything against taking these things. Every religion contains some rules regarding the taking of certain foods and avoiding of others. Only Christianity is an exception. The Jain and the Buddhas will by no means take fish or meat. The Jains again will not even eat potatoes, radish, or other vegetable roots which grow underground. Least in digging them up, worms are killed. They will not eat at night, lest some insects get into the mouths in the dark. The Jews do not eat fish that have no scales, do not eat pork, nor the animal that are not cloven hoofed or do not ruminate. Again, if milk or any preparations of milk be brought into the kitchen where fish or flesh is being cooked, the Jews will throw away everything cooked there. For this reason, the Orthodox Jews do not eat the food cooked by other nations, like the Hindus too. They do not take flesh which is simply slaughtered and not offered to God. In Bengal and Punjab, another name of flesh that is offered to the goddess is Mahaprasad, little the great offering. The Jews do not eat flesh unless it is Mahaprasada, that is, unless it is properly offered to God. Hence, they are like the Hindus and are not permitted to buy flesh at any or every shop. The Muslims obey many rules similar to the Jewish but do not, like them, go to extreme. They do not take milk and fish or flesh at the same meal, but do not consider it so much harmful if they are in the same kitchen or if any one touches another. There is much similarities respecting food between the Hindus and the Jews. The Jews, however, do not take wild boar, which the Hindus do. In the Punjab, on account of deadly animosity between the Hindus and the Muslims, the former do what the latter will not, and the wild boar has come has come to be one of the very essential article of food with the Hindus there. With the Rajputs hunting the wild boar and partaking of its flesh is rather an act of dharma. The taking of flesh of even the domesticated pig prevails to the great extent in the Deccan among all the castes except the Brahmin. The Hindu eat the wild fowl, wild fowl, that is cock or hen, but not domesticated fowl. People of India from Bengal to Nepal and in the Himalayas as far as the borders of Kashmir follow the same usage regarding food. In these parts, the custom of Manu are in force to a large extent even up to this day. But they obtain more especially in the part from Kumyon to Kashmir than in Bengal, Bihar, Allahabad or Nepal. For example, the Bengalis do not eat fowl or fowl eggs, but they eat duck's egg. So do the Nepalis, but from the Kumyon upward, even that is not allowed. The Kashmiris eat with pleasure eggs of wild duck, but not of the domestic birds. Of the people of India, beginning from Allahabad, except in the Himalayas, they who take the flesh of goat take fowl as well. All these rules and prohibitions with respect to food are for the most part meant, no doubt, in the interest of the good health, of course. In each and every instant, it is difficult accurately to determine which particle or particular food is conductive to health and which is not. Again, swine and fowls eat anything and everything and are very unclean, so they are forbidden. Now, no one sees what the wild animals eat in the forest, and so they are not disallowed. Besides, the wild animals are healthier and less sickly than the domestic ones. Milk is a very difficult of digestion. especially when one is suffering from acidity, and cases have happened when even by gulping down the glass of milk is hazardous. Life has been jeopardized. Milk should be taken as a child does from its mother's breast. It is sucked or sipped by the degree. It is easily digestible, otherwise not. Being itself hard to digest, it becomes the more so when taken with flesh. So the Jews are prohibited from taking flesh and milk at the same time. The foolish and ignorant mother who forces her baby to swallow too much of milk beats her breast in despair within a few months, on seeing that there is little hope of her darling's life. Modern medical authorities subscribe only a pint of milk even for the adult, and that is to be taken as slowly as possible. And for the babies, a feeding bottle is the best means. Our mothers are too busy with household duties, so the maid servant puts the crying baby in her laps and not unfrequently holds it down with her knees and by means of spoon makes it gulp down as much milk as she can. And the result is that generally it is afflicted with liver complaints and seldom growth up. That the milk proves to be its doom. Only those that have sufficient vitality to survive this sort of dangerous feeding attain a strong and healthy manhood. And the thing of our old fashioned confinement room of the hot fermentation given to the baby and treatment of like nature. It was indeed a wonder and must have been a matter of special divine grace that the mother and the baby survived this severe trial and could become strong and healthy. Next, civilization in dress. In every country, the respectability of a person is determined to a certain extent by the nature of the dress he wears. As a village folk in Bengal says in their patios, how can a gentleman be distinguished from one of the low birth unless his income is known? And not only income, unless it is seen how one dresses oneself. How can it be known if one is a gentleman? This is the same all over the world, more or less. In Bengal, no gentleman can walk in the street with only a lawn cloth on, while in other places, the street with only the lawn cloth on. While in the other parts of India, no one goes out of the door but with the turban on his head. In the West, the French have all alone taken the lead in everything. Their food and their dress are imitated by others. Even now, though different parts of the Europe have got different modes of clothes and dress on their own, yet when one earns a good deal of money becomes a gentleman, he straightway rejects his former native dress and substitutes the French mode in its place. The Dutch farmer, whose native dress somewhat resembles the pajamas of the Kabulis, the Greek clothed in full skirt, the Rush dressed somewhat after the Tibetan fashion. As soon as they become gentle, they wear French coats and pantaloons. Needless to speak of women, no sooner do they get rich than they must by any means have their dresses made in Paris. America, England, France, and Germany are now the rich countries in the West, and the dress of the people of these countries, one and all, is made from the French fashion, which is slowly and surely making its way into their everyday part of Europe. Every part of Europe. The whole of Europe seems to be imitating the French. However, men's clothes are better made nowadays in London than in Paris. So men have them London made and women have them Parisian style. Those who are very rich have their dresses sent from those two places. America enforces an exorbitant tax upon the importation of the foreign dresses. Notwithstanding that, the American woman must have them from Paris and London. This only the American can afford to do, for America is now the chief home of the Kubera, the god of wealth. The ancient Aryans used to put on the dhoti and chadar, chadhar. The Kshatriyas used to wear trousers and long coats while fighting. At other times, they would use only the dhoti and chadar or chadar, and they worn the turban. The same custom is still in vogue, except in Bengal. Among the people in all parts of India, they are not so particular about dresses for the rest of the body, but they must have the turban on their head. The former things or former times, the same was also the custom for both men and women. The sculpture, the sculptured feature of the Buddhistic period, the men and the women are seen to wear only a piece of copines. Even Lord Buddha's father, though a king, is seen in some sculptures sitting on the throne dressed in the same way, so also the mother, only she has in addition ornaments on her feet and arms, but they all are in turbans. The Buddhist emperor Dharma Ashoka, the Buddhist emperor Dharma Ashoka is seen sitting on the drum-shaped seat with only a dhoti on and a chadar around his neck, looking at themselves performing a dance before him. The dancing girls are very little clothed, having only short pieces of loose material hanging from their waist, but the glory is that the turban is there and it makes the principal feature of their dress. The high officials of the state who attend the royal court are however dressed in an excellent trouser and chogas or long coats. When the king Nala when the king Nala was discussed on as a charioteer in the service of King Rituparna, he drove the chariot at such a tremendous speed that the chadar of the king Rituparna was blown away to such an distance that it could not be recovered, and as he had set out to marry or join the Swayamvar, he had to do so, perchance without a chadar. The dhoti and chadar are the time-honored dress of the Aryans. Hence, or at the same time of performance of any religious ceremony, the rule among the Hindus even now is to put on dhoti and chadar only. The dress of the ancient Greeks and Romans was dhoti and chadar, one a broad piece of cloth around and another smaller one made in the form of toga, from which the word choga is derived. Sometimes they used also a shirt, and at the time of fighting, trousers and coats. The dress of women was a long and sufficient broad, square-shaped garment similar to that formed by sieving two sheet lengthwise, which they slip on over the head and tied around, once under the breast and again round the waist. Then they fastened the upper part, then they fastened the upper part, which were the waist. Then they fastened the upper part, which were open, over both the arms by means of large pins. In much In much the same way as the hill tribes of the northern Himalayas still wear their blankets, there was a chadar over the long garment. This dress was very simple and elegant. From the very old days, only the Iranians used shaped dresses. Perhaps they learnt it from the Chinese. The Chinese were the primeval teachers of civilization in dress. Other things pertaining to various comfort and luxury. From time immemorial, the Chinese took their meal at the table, sitting on chairs with many elaborate auxiliaries and wore shaped dresses of many varieties, coat, cap, trousers, and so on. Out of objecting out out the objectionable parts. But this step has made the Chinese more suspicious than before. But this step has made the Chinese more suspicious than before.